Hey YouTube family, it's me, Lori, back to have a little chat. I hope you're all doing really well and it's good to see you here. Well, I can't really see you, but hopefully read you. Thank you for all the comments you've been making. I really appreciate it. I love the interaction with you guys. It means a lot, more than you know. So I just wanted to let you know that. And yeah, I wanted to wait until I really had something on my mind that was pressing that I felt like I wanted to talk about. I used to come on and just talk about whatever, scrap up things, and it just kind of felt like I was forcing myself to find things that were interesting to talk about. So I thought there's a lot I left out about part one of Ex-Mormon, My Truth. So Ex-Mormon, My Truth part two is what this is today, but not before doing Fragrance of the Day. So I hope you'll stay with me, and thanks for being here. Alrighty, Fragrance of the Day is a new one. I'm addicted, clearly. This is called Cosmic Jasmine, and I really love the bottle. It's like a chrome bottle here. And right away I noticed the word cosmic. Now, Kylie Jenner Cosmetics, you know Kylie Jenner from the Kardashians. She has a fragrance too, in fact, Cosmic 1 and Cosmic 2, I think. But this is called Cosmic, but it's Cosmic Jasmine. Obviously, they couldn't just say Cosmic. The Good Scent is who makes it. It's an eau de parfum. It's quite a good size. It's heavy, I will say. And I got it at TJ Maxx. I know, shocker. It was $16.99, and the top notes are lush jasmine. Well, of course it's lush. Bergamot, peach blossom, mild tuberose, wild lavender, honeysuckle. Those are the mid notes, by the way. And the base notes are sandalwood, vanilla bean, and cashmere, which is very common. The base notes are usually kind of woody or musky or vanilla-y together. But yeah, I love that. Lavender is one of my favorites. Bergamot, jasmine, tuberose, and honeysuckle is a good little note. Peach, I usually don't like, but this peach blossom is okay for me. So let's spray some on, shall we? So the Good Scent, you can only find it in TJ Maxx or Marshall's. Oh, does that smell good? This is so versatile, because I feel like it's an everyday fragrance when it dries down. It just smells like something that you could wear during the day and it wouldn't be offensive. Yet at night, it has a little something, something. I think it turns into that perfect skin scent. So I feel like you could wear this year round, in the daytime, nighttime. It's a good buy. I don't know if Cosmic by Kylie Jenner, I don't know if those notes are exact, but I'm thinking they must be similar, because I've heard someone describe this very similar to the Cosmic. So that's a really good find. So yeah, the Good Scent. And I believe, Creations by the Good Scent. I was thinking that they were made by True, TRU, but I'm not seeing that here. So the Good Scent. Anyway, love it. Did you want some? I forgot to spray some for you. I sprayed the candle. Oh my God, what am I trying to do? Start a fire? Boy, it smells good in here. That is a good one. That is a good one. That was the only one that was the only one I could find, in fact, or that was there. So if you see it, grab it if you like those notes. I've brought a Pellegrino. San Pellegrino. I don't think it's San Pellegrino, but it could be. It's Italian. Italian sparkling water. Or Italian sparkling drinks. Limonata is the flavor. Basically lemonade. And it's just like a sparkling lemonade. Non-alcoholic, of course. I probably have a drink once a year, if that. I'm not really an alcoholic kind of a person, but these are really refreshing. My kids like them because they're just lemonade but bubbly. So it's pretty popular in the summertime around here. Okay, let's get into this, shall we? And where do I start? I have notes, and let me put on my glasses. I hope it doesn't cause a glare. I have a feeling it will, so let me try without them. Okay, in part one, I talked a lot about kind of some of the happenings that I experienced growing up in the LDS Mormon Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints church. I say all those things because people know them with different names, but I believe the third is what they would like to be called. But yes, I'm an ex-Mormon. I wanted to talk a little bit about the aftermath, so to speak, the psychological impact it can have on people, especially when you're born into the religion and you don't know anything other than, and your school friends are, then you've got your church friends, and they're all intertwined. So it pretty much envelops your life. You don't know anything different. And yeah, so I personally experienced some true psychological side effects. And honestly, I know that they stem from the things that happen that you can go back to part one and watch. But I also know that there's a lot to work through that I never worked through. Part of that is because I never told anybody about the things that happen. And when you don't talk to somebody and tell, how are you ever going to work your way through and process it and get to the other side? I know there are good and bad people in this world of every religion, even of non-religions. We know this about the world. I'm specifically talking about my experience, my truth, which could have nothing to do with yours. This may just be, it's not a pity party. It's me feeling inspired to tell you these things in case you're going through it or have been through it, and maybe you can make some comments that'll be helpful. Yeah, I say these things in hopes that I can help someone, and I admit selfishly it's cathartic and therapeutic, even though I'm staring at a camera. I know you're behind there. Start with when you step away from the church. You know, when you decide you want to step away from attendance and participation of the church, you might, I'm using the word might, you might have members reach out and say they miss you. Nothing wrong with that. They may invite you to come back to church. They may invite you to lunch to have a little talk. It doesn't mean that they dislike you or they're judging you. They just might want to meet up and kind of still can have that friendship, or it could be that they want a little of that and a little bit of influencing you to come back because they feel sorry for you and that they feel like you're missing that out. You're missing out on that in your life. And I've had a few people do that. And usually what happens is something like that. And then it turns into, you know, I just want to tell you about my testimony of the church. And that's usually how the lunch would end. And so I kind of stopped accepting those invitations at one point. Now, I grew up in Southeast Idaho, if you haven't watched my channel before. But I moved to the eastern, would this be the Northeast? Where am I? Maryland. And it's very different here. It's a big melting pot of people and from all different backgrounds and religions, but there's still a Mormon church, and your records follow you everywhere, and you get, you know, the welcome and all that. But I have one friend that still invites me out. She does not say one word about the church or inviting me back or her testimony or judging me. Nothing. She is just my friend, straight across the board. So I want to let you know that. And she has a strong belief, and she is a member of the Mormon church. So I want you to know that I know there are good people in the church. So before you go crazy on me, just know that I know that. Basically, we know there are good and bad humans everywhere in the world. Do we not? Okay. Another thing is, if you have kids and your activity, well, lack of activity, like going to church and participating, can mean that your kids stop as well, if you've had them going to church or if you have children. and people might mention, I'll use the word might again, they may mention that they miss the kids at church, that it would be good for the kids to come to church. We could come up and over and pick them up. They could sit with us at church. Of course, I have the personality that this may cause you to judge me, but I feel like if I'm not going and I don't believe in something, I don't want to have my kids go and sit with another family. I feel like that's unhealthy. That is gearing them towards not so much that they're going to gain a testimony and become this hyper religious person and come home and say, gee, mom, you should come to church. It's not that. It's that I want the unity as a family. And because my kids got older when we started to talk about it and I knew how they felt, we're not talking about 8 years old, folks. We're talking about, way beyond that, when kids can start to form stronger opinions and get more worldviews, which is really good here in Maryland because they get more of that. And the fact that they're biracial as well, they don't see a lot of people that they can relate to at church. They've mentioned that to me, that even though it's the East Coast and everything, they feel if you can't see yourself in other people, it's a strange little feeling. And they said it was uncomfortable. So a lot of people mentioning things like, the blacks didn't go to church or were, couldn't come to church, or they'll talk about history or use, certain terminologies. It makes it really uncomfortable. And I know it may be innocent and not meant to be pinpointed towards them. However, it does affect young minds and mature minds all the way around. So when we start talking about me not going, my inactivity, it doesn't make me feel guilty so much. But when they bring the kids into it, it is an attempt, I think, to make me feel like I'm not being the parent that I should be, that I'm not going the extra mile, I'm not protecting them. Does that make sense? Because of my choices, because I'm their mother, and I would be the one to, so to speak, call the shots. And I am not turning that over to somebody else in their family. They're not going to sit at church if they're uncomfortable, because there could be resentment later. And they could say, you forced us to go, and we even had to sit with this family we didn't even know. That could be one of the scenarios. They could go and love that family and want to hang out with that family. And I could feel like, an estrangement of some sort. But it's not the same as my kids being on a soccer team or gymnastics or in a school group. Of course, I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm not in high school or taking art classes or going to college. I'm not in their psychology class, and I shouldn't be. It's not the same as going with family and going to the carnival or, going to a play or on a vacation. It's a completely different thing. And I know you're all intelligent here, and I'm preaching to the choir, so to speak. So yeah. One thing that I don't like and that I didn't like and still don't like is one thing. And I wouldn't like this from not only the Mormon church, but any church. When your name is on the records of the church, it is one of those things where your name gets passed around. So your cell phone, your address is passed on. And you will get just an unannounced knock at the door. I'm only saying this on my experience, maybe not yours. Unannounced knocks at the door, visits from sister missionaries or the elders at the door unannounced. Do I want to answer the door? Not so much. Do I know that I know people that have gone on missions in my family, and there's that little twinge of guilt that pops in, and that what would my mother do? What would I let one of my sister's kids in, or someone else's that's on a mission on this day of 90-degree weather and humidity, and they're probably thirsty walking up and down these streets? Yeah, probably open the door, tell them make small talk, have them stay in the hallway where it's air conditioned, right on the main floor, and go grab them something cold to drink. No, not a beer, a cold water, or, it could be juice, it could be soda, usually something to go, usually soda, but not Coke. And then I remember even giving them a popsicle, because as a person, I think that's just normal. Like for most people, you don't want to see that. I feel sorry for them, these young kids too. And I know you're like, they're there because they choose there to, and it's their faithfulness and they believe in it. And yes, that may be true. But there are some that are there and don't want to be there. And I know that's a hard reality, in fact, to face for some people. But it is true, because I've seen many young men and women go on missions, and a few years later, they've left the church and they hated their missions for various reasons. Now, you may think they've lost everything because they've changed their mind. But you have to remember the word free agency. Freedom, they have the free agency and freedom to make that decision no matter what you think they're losing. But your phone number gets, not to get off on a tangent, but the phone number gets passed and you'll get texts. And once you kind of stop talking to one, and you may block the number, I might have, somehow another number is used and you'll get a text 6 months later or whatever, from whoever's new, introducing themselves and wanting to meet with you and come over and inviting you to church and so on and so forth. It's part of their job. They're asked to do it. I get it, but it's annoying and I don't like it. You may like it. You may think it's great. It may be your child, okay? And I respect that, but I don't like it, because if I wanted that, I'd come to church. Wouldn't you agree? We can agree. Or disagree? Agree to disagree. But I used to have a video called, I was afraid family would see it, but I called it the birthday lunch from hell, when I was invited by family who are hyper-religious. I call them that. That's okay. That doesn't mean I can't love them. That doesn't mean I can't spend time with them and support them in their beliefs and be non-judgmental and still like them, get together. However, they, on my birthday lunch, decided this was the day of judgment for me while I'm trying to eat my meal, my birthday meal at that. Little did I know, it was kind of like an ambush. And how's work going? Well, things have been slower since the pandemic, but I take every job I can, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And they're like, if you went to church and you got, back into going to the temple and and putting your life into this and paying your tithing, you would reap the rewards and your money would just come from nowhere. You'd be surprised what'll come in the mail or the money you'll make. And blaming my lack of financial gain or busyness as a makeup artist, blame that on my not paying tithing. And I would be fine and I wouldn't suffer. And that's their testimony of it. And they have a right in free agency to believe that. I also have a right in free agency not to believe that. I have siblings who they went to church as a kid because they had to, but they left when they got older and they went and did their own thing. And they didn't pay tithings, and a couple of them are probably millionaires at this point. And the truth of the matter is, I'll get to that later. We'll move on to friends. So my friends, obviously I'm going to have friends that are LDS and Mormon, not family, because I grew up in Southeast Idaho. And I may have stayed in touch with some, and yes, that's true. And I love them. I think they're wonderful. They're great. They haven't said anything to offend me. They haven't been verbally judgmental. Especially, there's a few of them, especially I know of. But there are a few that they don't have to say anything. Their lack of communication and acknowledgement show me a little bit about what they think. Now, maybe I'm getting the wrong impression, but if someone just kind of leaves you out of a conversation, pretends you're not there, it could be that. It could be. It could be. That's my interpretation. And some will treat you like, you're human. They're non-judgmental. They love you for who you are, like I said. They know you have free agency to make your own choices, even if they do believe it's not right for you and that you could have a better life and better things and a better afterlife. They lead by example. And what I mean by that is they love me unconditionally. They're my friend. They may say we went to church today. They may mention something, and I'm not offended. I'm listening to them. Does it make me hurry and jump and go to church? No. And they know that. But it's okay for them to share. It's part of their life. And they know me, and I don't judge them. They don't judge me. But there are some people that have some strong beliefs, but there's just no pressure there. And I appreciate that. And I think it's important to remember that in any of these chats too on YouTube, where people come on and tell their truth. You have to understand that they're going on their own experience and you're going on yours. And I don't judge you. I want you to come into the comments. If you don't agree, that's okay. You can tell me. If you want to share your religion and what you believe, or maybe you've had a bad experience with this and you've got a lot to say about it, whatever the case, or maybe you want to stay silent and just listen. Side note, I'm not sure if you see these red spots here and around this area. Not to be off topic here, but just a healthy reminder, a friendly reminder to go have your full body check at the dermatologist. A lot of people go once a year. Off topic here, but I just realized looking in the mirror, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why I didn't wear any face makeup like in this area. But yeah, it's good because just the littlest thing, a mole can become a mountain, right? So yeah, plenty of people I know that have had things checked out and they weren't good. Luckily, they got it in time, but a friendly reminder. So there you go. So this is from sun damage. It's like a little fire hydrant and it blows out cold air and it feels like a stinging, pinching sensation and it kind of zaps them and they're supposed to slough off. And that's from the years in Southeast Idaho of when I actually saw the sun for a good month or two and laid out on tinfoil with baby oil on. Anyway, let's move on. Guilt. My guilt will be forever. And I'll tell you why. I was very close to my mother. I did have a video up about my adoption story. I was the youngest of 5, and my parents adopted me at 5 months old. So they had 4 other children. There's quite an age gap. In fact, the first 3 children of theirs, maybe 4, maybe all of them are old enough to be my parents. Definitely. And so I didn't really grow up with siblings. I grew up with some of their children. So I would be their aunt, right? But we were more like cousins for the times we lived close together. But because my mom adopted me, and even if not, you know how it is when you're really close to one parent in particular, and you don't want to upset them because you love them so much and you have a close relationship and you know their beliefs and you don't want to hurt them. I knew my mom had been hurt by the fact that a few of the kids didn't continue on the path of church. Did she talk about it? No. Did she belittle them? No. Did she not love them anymore? No. Did she become estranged? No. Were they welcomed to the house? Yes. Were they forced to go to church? No. They were not ostracized. Their relationship was the same because my mom loved unconditionally. Oh boy. Don't get emotional, Lori. I'll be right back. All right. got a little emotional there. But my mom loved her children and her grandchildren alike. And there were many grandchildren when she was alive that weren't raised by, her own children who had, not gone to church or left church. And so then the grandchildren weren't either. Did it make a difference between the ones who were and the ones that didn't go to church on how much she loved them, or what she did for them, or the time she spent, or any of it? Nope, none of that. Because she was just an example of a true good human being in this world. She was thoughtful, she was loving, she was generous, I love to go shopping. She was generous with her time, she was non-judgmental, she was forgiving, and she understood her children's choices and her grandchildren's choices were theirs, and didn't dwell on those things, but rather loving and living by example. For those that left the church, she respected them and had unwavering love. But the guilt will never leave me. As an adopted child, extremely close, and loved her so much. And I think that sometimes I feel guilty because she died when I was in my 20s. I've lived more of my life without her than with. And sometimes I feel guilty because I knew I never loved the church or believed it. It doesn't mean that I didn't believe in the people and that I didn't have friends or family I loved. But it's hard being ostracized for it. And I think that my mom wouldn't have wanted that. I think I could have been like my siblings and she still would have loved me equally. But for some reason, I couldn't find it in my heart because I loved her so much and I didn't want to see her cry and be disappointed. And keep in mind, I had already been married in the temple. If you want to know about that, go back and listen to Who the Hell Did I Marry? I needed that break. Thank you, Farmer. That calls for a drink of this sparkling lemonade. I am sorry for that. I also think because of some of the things that happened, this might have not in your life. You could have experienced this. It doesn't mean it's got to be a church member or family member that went to church. In my case, it was. But in your life, no matter what walk of life you come from, it could have been none of this happened, something else, or it could be something like this, but you belong to a completely different religion, none, whatever. It doesn't matter where you live in the world. These things happen. But I've noticed that from those abusive situations, as a child, I'll use the word SA, that was continual, and not telling my parents, not telling any adults, not knowing what to do, feeling shocked and feeling shame. I think that as a young child, and I was expected to, I don't know, there was expectations, that I, get married in the temple and have children, and that's a whole other story. And there's some things that I'll never talk about on this channel. Never, ever, ever. It's off limits. And it just is. It's a turn of events I wish never happened. That portion of my life, if I could take it back, I'd take a huge eraser. That is the strongest eraser or whiteout in the world and just go crazy with it. But my expectations of what I deserved because of all the shame and settling for the ex-husband, I feel like it lowered my expectations about what I deserved in a relationship or in a friendship, if that makes sense. Including friendships, even at the moment. even family at the moment, current things in my life. It makes you super sensitive, hypersensitive even. And maybe you can relate. Please tell me in the comments. And what I mean by that is you can have friends and get really close to them. And you just think, oh my gosh, these people are my people. They understand me. And then they kind of ghost you. Maybe you said something wrong. And you start thinking about it. Maybe you did something wrong. Did you miss a birthday? Did you miss an occasion? What could you have said to offend them? What did you do? You're wrapping it around yourself, which you shouldn't do because, for one, it's not all about you. Number two, they could have things going on. So usually that's my thought process. And then I reach out and say, is everything okay? I'm just checking on you. It's not, oh my gosh, did I do something to offend you? Blah, blah, blah. That isn't the first response. It's like, are you okay? I miss talking to you. How's your family? Some months go by, maybe, happy holidays. And you kind of keep going down that road. And then finally you realize maybe you did offend them. Or maybe they're going through a period of time where they just don't want to talk to anybody. And so that makes you a little bit, confused and it kind of shuts you off from friendships and I'm going to be like Alicia. Anyway, you could feel shut off from family and friends and become depressed because you loved these people and you're trying to figure it out. But you do when you have low self-esteem. And I admit, you guys, even when I'm all dolled up, have the cutest dress on, do my hair, do my makeup, whatever. And yes, I'm getting older, but I felt like this even when I was younger. I look in the mirror and I didn't see what maybe my friends said that they saw, or even what someone may say on Instagram when I do some makeup or something. Does that make sense? And I know some of you can relate. You look in the mirror and you don't like what you see. And really, it's because your expectations are super low. You feel like you've got to settle for any friend that'll be your friend. Settle for anybody that wants to be in a relationship with you. And that gets you into a lot of trouble. That can get you into abusive relationships because people that are narcissists and people that don't love themselves are attracted to other people who don't love themselves. There's a control factor there. So that's a really dangerous thing too. And yeah, but that can lead you to what happened to me, being in the church, knowing my parents wanted me to get married in the temple and choosing somebody who I wouldn't have ever married. And I knew that. And having pre-intimacy, which is against the church, prior to marriage and going right into the temple and getting married. I would have never told anybody, but I felt pressured and I didn't know anything different than someone forcing the card, and just going with it, because isn't that what love is? Tell me if you have had that in your life. I know there's a few people. I'm not going to name them, but they're going to speak right away on it. But a lot of these things I'm talking about, I want you to know, and please remember this, that I have found forgiveness in a lot of people. And I hope that a lot of people will forgive me as well for anything I've said or done, mistakes I've made, anything I've done to hurt them or say to hurt them. I would hope for forgiveness. It may or may not happen. And I'm working on forgiveness too, because it brings you peace. Some people say forgiveness is for yourself, not for the other people or person. And there may be truth to that. What do you think? Moving on, the friends that I found that have continually been my friends through thick or thin, that I'm close to, we have good communication. We may not agree on the same life paths, and I'm not necessarily talking about religion here or members of the church or not. I'm just talking about friends, and it can even be family. You can have those people that are just continually in your life, communicate. You feel like there's trust there. And you don't withdraw, they don't withdraw, you just kind of stick together. They're your people, they're your tribe, some people say. But yeah, I think that that's important, and I feel very lucky. And I feel like when I find people like that, the trust is real, and I put everything into those friendships and family member friendships, which has kind of shrunk because a lot of people have passed away, for one thing, and nobody lives around here except for the birthday party from hell people, and yeah, we're not doing that. And so yeah, friends become your family, right? And when you live in an area like this, there's a lot of people that have family in other parts of the world. I have a lot of clients that aren't from here and their family lives elsewhere. So basically, my truth, part 2, another part of it is, you know, my life at this point is my 2 children. They'll be 17 next month. Yeah, they're twins. And my pup, who will be 4, and well, they say February, but we believe March. And he's my 3rd child. Definitely my toddler. Even though the kids say, Mom, he's 30 years old in dog years. I'm like, nope, not having it. So yeah, you know, my new friends, my friends new and old, who love and accept and allow me to love and accept, that I understand and they understand me. Yeah, and I think that's a great thing. And it's a healing thing, and it's important. As far as the psychological impact, I will admit, and I know a lot of you could relate, hopefully less than more, because I don't wish this upon anyone. But I know there's some people here that may not comment and may comment that have had situations, or just naturally it's been their nature to be an anxious person and have anxiety. This being on YouTube is a huge leap of it takes courage, because you are putting yourself in a situation where you're going to have some comments that might not be so nice, and keyboard warriors and just people thinking, my God, you know, what's next with this woman, you know? But the psychological impact, you know, and I hope you do too. I remind myself that I'm worthy, that I don't need false promises. I don't need fantasies. I don't need a book that somebody created that I can't relate to, and I can't even stand reading or listening to in my life. And that's okay. I don't need to feel like that I'll never be with God, or that I'll never be with my parents or loved ones. I believe, in my opinion, that God gives and is unconditional love. And for me, a personal relationship with God is the most important. So I did want to let you know that although I don't belong to a religion, I understand, for me personally, the importance of a relationship with God. That's just me, in my opinion. And I still am someone that prays. And I don't pray because all of a sudden somebody's sick and I want them to live, or pray for my own self because of this, that, the other. I may pray for, you know, my children, pray for my friends, pray just to pray, you know. It can be short and sweet, or it could be a long talk. But I find that's still something that I have in my life, and maybe that's something that I learned along the way when I was going to church, and maybe it's something I learned from my parents. And if I'm being honest, I know I learned from my parents. Okay, let's talk about some of the good things about part 2. The immense joy of seeing my, children happy, talks on the future, plans, they feel accepted on what they want to do, their views on religion, what they think they want to do for a career, or what college they might want to go to, or what trade they may want to learn. You know, maybe they want to take a break, like a year's break, and work someplace while they're figuring it out. But being a part of their lives is truly the maximum happiness. And I feel very lucky. But they're free to be the people that they decide to be. I try to do like my mother in a different way, but in the same way. It doesn't have anything to do with the Mormon church, but it has to do with what I took away from her, which is leading with love, leading with forgiveness if I need to, teaching my kids forgiveness, because guess what? I hope they forgive me for all the mistakes I've made and continue to make and will make. So if I don't teach them to be forgiving and remind them, what shall I expect, right? But that's just being human. I think that's just trying to be a good human and wanting them to be good humans and treat other people well, from opening the door at the store to having good manners to, you know, behavior at school and respect, communication, and openness, being able to come to me with their problems and issues, not to their friends necessarily. Sometimes it might be because we know that there's things they don't want to talk to mom or dad about, but, you know, starting a dialogue about things. So yeah, that's important. And yeah, I just want to make sure that I have some bits of my mom and encourage them to achieve their goals. I want them to feel loved unconditionally and supported. That's extremely important to me. But yeah, slowly but surely, putting everything back together at my age, facing the truth, another stepping stone, really realizing who I am. You can do that whether you're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or even 80 years old. It's a process, and it's just when you decide to do it, right? And here's one other one of the things that I have a hard time with when I was in church and then I left. I remember it when I was in church because I'd hear it a lot at church from different people. Not all people, not all, but quite a few. A lot of judgment and a lot of scare tactics about what I was losing, what privileges, and all the things I should be doing or shouldn't be doing. And now I feel free to be me. And it feels good. Because I do have free agency, don't I? The church talks about free agency, and free agency is for everybody. Okay, on this TED Talk, I am far, as many words as I can say far, just dream of it, from being perfect. I never was perfect. I am not perfect now, and I never will be. And I know this. I have made many, and think of the word many going on, mistakes. Some far worse than others. Some are unforgivable. Okay. In some people's eyes, of course, and including my own. Other mistakes are a lack of common sense. And other mistakes are low self-esteem and having low expectations of myself. And I know some of you could relate to that. You can dwell on those things, but it's truly a process of learning from them and trying not to repeat, avoiding repeating these mistakes, and having self-forgiveness. if some of the things I've said offend you and you're not okay with them, it's my last page, and you feel that I've offended you or my opinion's wrong, and that I am, giving up the ultimate gifts of life by choice and feeling so strongly about it that it's upsetting to you, and that the reason I'm feeling some of the ways I'm feeling about things I've mentioned is because I'm not going to church and not doing all the things I've talked about. But I want to ask you a question. Maybe it bothers you because you're questioning your own beliefs at that moment. In that moment, what I'm saying, you're questioning your own beliefs, or it's bringing up something that you have avoided. It's just a thought. Yeah. And I just ask that you kindly respect my feelings, knowing that I respect yours, and you're all welcome here. And, we can agree to disagree. And I appreciate you guys listening to me. This is not a big channel. It's a small channel. I never think it'll be a big channel, and that's not the goal here. Even if there's a couple of you that talk and chat with me, I appreciate it more than you know. Words cannot express. So I do answer every comment, read every comment, and yeah. I just hope that we can all treat each other with respect in the chat and everyone's opinions. Maybe we'll get a few laughs. Maybe we won't. But thank you for supporting me on the channel. And if you've subscribed, it means a lot. And if you think that I'm crazy enough that I'm entertaining, go ahead and subscribe. It's always helpful to turn on your notifications so you can know when my TED Talks are going to happen, and occasionally do some makeup. And also, don't you want to know the fragrance of the day? Hello? Anyway, I wish you all a very good day, and thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you later. Sending big hugs. Bye.